Hi there. How fast do tree populations recover after logging, and how large will a population of threatened animals be in 50 years? These are relevant questions for conservation biology and forest management. And to answer them, we need models that simulate the development of populations over time. In this knowledge clip, I will introduce you to matrix population models and show how they can be used. You will learn how to construct those models for animals and for plants and to run them. Let's start with the required information to construct a matrix model, the vital rates. In matrix models for animals, individuals are generally categorized in age classes. Per age class, we need the rates of survival and reproduction. And in addition, we need the rate at which newborns enter the population. In most matrix models for plants, individuals are categorized in size classes. For example, classes of stem diameter for trees or the heights for herbs. Per size class, we need the rates of survival and reproduction, but also the growth rates of individual plants. Now let's construct a matrix model for an animal species, a hare. We use 3 age classes: newborns, 1-year-olds, and adults. Then we draw the life cycle with arrows representing transitions that take place within 1 year. Pink transitions are for survival and green for reproduction. Let's suppose that we observed survival during a field study, resulting in the following transition probabilities for survival over here. The value for the last category is the survival of all individuals of 2 years and older, so all surviving individuals stay in that same category. The other 2 vital rates that we need are offspring production by 1-year-olds and offspring production by adult individuals, over here. Now, we can put these vital rates in a table. And this table we call the transition matrix. It is the core of the matrix model. Columns in this table represent the state at time t, and rows represent the state at time t+1. Now, let's construct a transition matrix for trees, beech trees, for example. In this case, we have categories of seeds, seedlings, juveniles, and adults. The life cycle is somewhat different from that of the hare. There are small blue loops for all classes because individuals can remain in that same size category. We call these stasis transitions. 3 of the transitions can be directly observed in the field: the germination rate, 0.1%, the chance of remaining in the seed category, 5%, and the number of seeds produced per adult tree, 1,500. Calculating the pink transitions from seedlings to juveniles and from juveniles to adults is a bit more complex, as they combine survival and growth. We calculate those by multiplying survival probability, S, with the probability of a surviving individual to move to the next class, G. The probability G depends on the time needed to move through that category, so it depends on how fast individuals grow and how wide the category is. So probability G is the ratio of diameter growth rate and the width of the category. If juveniles grow at a 1 centimeter rate in diameter per year and the class is 10 centimeters wide, G equals 0.1. Multiplied with 90% survival, this results in a transition probability from juveniles to adults of 0.09. And using a similar logic, we get a value of 0.02 for the seedlings to juvenile transition. The stasis transition represents those individuals that survive but have not moved to the next class. So the probability of surviving minus the probability of moving to the next class. And the resulting values for stasis are over here. Just like the example of the hare, we can now put all transitions in a table to obtain the transition matrix for beech trees. So far, you've learned how you can construct transition matrices, and the next time is to use those models to simulate population growth. So let's simulate the population development of the hare. We need information on the dynamics of the population, which is in the transition matrix, and on the amount of individuals in each class, which is in the vector of the population structure. In this case, we start with a population consisting of 200 newborns. Now you can simulate the dynamics by doing matrix multiplication of the transition matrix with the vector. And the result is the population structure at time t+1 over there. We had 200 newborns at time t, of which 22% survived to become 1-year-olds, equaling 44 individuals at time t+1. To simulate the population at times t+2, we simply multiply the vector for t+1 with the matrix. Now, the resulting vector also contains newborns, as the 1-year-old hares produced a total of 22 newborns. And it contains 17.6 adults, which equals the 40% surviving 1-year-old individuals. If we repeat these multiplications over 20 years, the total population develops like this. And you can see that after some fluctuations, the population grows at a constant rate. Let's see what happens if we start with 200 adults instead of 200 newborns. Over here. In this case, population growth is much faster because many newborns are produced. And again, after some fluctuations, the population grows at the same constant rate. The other interesting result is that the distribution of individuals over the 3 age classes after 20 years is exactly the same for these two cases, in spite of their very different starting values. Both simulated populations have reached the so-called stable size distribution. This is a mathematical property of the transition matrix. It is the right eigenvector. And when populations have reached that relative distribution, they grow at a fixed rate. This is called the asymptotic population growth rate, or lambda, and it is the dominant eigenvalue of the transition matrix. In this case, lambda equals 1.042, which means a 4.2% growth per year. If we start with a population of 200 years distributed according to this stable size distribution, population development is smooth from the start on, and population growth equals lambda from year 1 onwards. Now let's move to the beech trees. If we start with 500 seedlings, the population first drops and then starts to grow. Starting with 500 individuals distributed according to the stable size distribution results in a slightly increasing population, as lambda is quite low. To compare the growth rate over 50 years, we better plot this on a log scale, like this. And then we can see that the growth rates are the same, as the lines are exactly parallel. So, let me summarize what you've learned. You've seen how matrix models can be constructed for animals and for plants, and you've learned how to simulate the development of populations over time and derive the population growth rates. Thanks for your attention.